Welcome into Boxing Scene Today here at the ProBox TV studios. And for this discussion, we're going to need a bigger boat. That's right. Jimmy Smith alongside the champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi. What I'm talking about is the 50th anniversary of the movie Jaws. By the way, terrified me when I was a kid. My parents let me watch anything, and Jaws was one of them. Scared the crap out of me. But in honor of that, Boxing Scene has come out with their list of the 50 greatest Jaws chins in boxing history. I'm telling you, we're discussing this, by the way, off camera. That's all we've been talking about, and we've come up with some great stuff. What we're going to try to do is maybe stay away from it. Look, I love Carmine Basilio. I love Gene Fulmer. Don't know how much our audience knows those guys.
Fulmer
Maybe way back in the day. But we're going to discuss the greatest chins in boxing history. Dude, before we even get started, Chris, the discussion we were having off camera is, for example, Muhammad Ali makes almost everyone's list. He did little things to take the sting off punches that maybe a civilian wouldn't say, oh man, what a chin. He also just got a little, had a role, had a style. B-Hop on this list, I don't agree with that. I think B-Hop took sting off a lot of punches in ways we don't get. Chris, what's your thought?
And even we were talking about Hector Camacho is another one. He had a good chin. He went down a bunch of times, but he was so crafty. He would able to get through. Those guys who are really athletic, those guys who are really reactive, those guys that are crafty in that way, yes, they went the distance, all these guys, but a lot of them did get dropped. And that's why we were asking, like, is there a difference between chin and then resilience and then recovery power? And yes, so they're all different.
Ali got knocked down, but Cooper.
They get a special nomination, right? They get a special. Ali got knocked down by Cooper. The Bayonne Bleeder knocked him down, right?
Yes, Chuck Wepner.
Wepner. Honestly, with Cooper, he's
Frazier,
gone.
obviously.
Frazier dropped. With Cooper, he's gone. If it's not if it's not the end of the round, he's gone.
But once again, he had great recuperative powers. He
They
recovered
also
very
cut his
well.
glove in that fight, so they got a lot of extra time.
A lot has been made of that.
Yeah, that one too. But I think that's why we're still mentioning him. I don't know if he makes the list because we're going to get into our list now. But I think these guys have to be mentioned because
absolutely,
their chins came in handy at various points in their careers, and they came through. You know, when tested, they still came through.
Here's my thing. This is a hill I am willing to die on. I know you guys are the experts. I understand that. Number one, and this is from my childhood. Maybe I'm being emotional right here. Marvin Hagler could take a shot, that big dome of his, and so many guys, when Tommy Hearns I couldn't believe how hard his head was. He said that in the documentary. I hit him clean. I couldn't believe he broke his hand on the guy's head.
First round.
But this idea that punchers like Mugabe went, I can't.
Mugabe all knockout.
I gave up.
That's an underrated fight.
He broke him. He broke him because he was like, I can't knock this guy out. When it comes to me, in my preferences, I gotta go with Hagler's my number one all time forever. And he took a lot of clean punches. Good boxer, maybe an underrated boxer. He wasn't great. He ran into a lot of punches.
He wasn't one of those super athletic guys we were talking about where he had that like reactivity. He wasn't like that. He was a bit of a he was slick enough, of course. Right. Obviously, he was a fantastic boxing IQ. But yeah, he wasn't like a Hector Camacho or an Ali. He took the brunt of some of those shots. Yeah. But he was just a hard-nosed dude. Yeah. And that was part of his style. That was part of how he broke you.
And some of those guys he fought were rough, man.
Rough.
I mentioned the Argentina a few weeks ago.
Rolled in.
That guy was almost all knockouts.
Yeah.
And
those guys were all in a row.
Hagler didn't fight him safe. Hagler went like kamikaze style at him. You know?
Minter, Antifermo, these were tough dudes.
Antifermo wasn't a puncher, but tough. This was a really, really rough guy.
Mustafa Hamsho.
Twice, right?
Yeah, Hamsho. You had several. You mentioned Mugabe and Hearns. Obviously, dude, Hagler's chin makes the list because not just because he did take some of the shots, but also it's tested against punchers. Yeah, tested against bona fide punchers,
and also his style took a lot of contact. He wasn't moving on you. He was coming at you, and he was testing your chin, your will against his own. So you got to get hit. And I think actually, we mentioned this on past shows. We probably saw him degrade from those punchers by the time he got to Sugar, and it's probably one of the reasons why he did retire when he did, other than being just completely disgusted. But yeah, those punchers, fighting those punchers back to back to back that way, that takes things out of you.
But retiring at the right time kept him healthy, though.
Yes.
If you anybody who's met Marvin Hagler, I know I did.
I met him in Aruba in 2013.
Spoke totally normal, like
he was a movie star afterwards. He was in spaghetti westerns,
and he spoke Italian. He moved to Italy, and for decades, and he was back and forth from Italy and the U.S. for decades after that. He spoke Italian.
I met his wife too.
Fluently, yeah. Yep. So he was Like if you didn't know
Sharp.
he was a boxer,
Right.
you wouldn't have known he was a boxer. He
Oh
spoke
no!
that well.
When I saw him, I did.
Yeah?
Dude, he was still in
because
really
he
good
was
shape.
buff.
He's still in really good shape.
Yeah, he's the guy in shape on the beach. But you know what
I seen him
I'm
on the
saying?
beach.
The way he spoke, there was
absolutely.
no remaining damage from boxing.
He did some guest commentating as well, no? Because
I think he did it in time.
Yeah.
But you know what? He
was kind of disgusted
He
with the
exiled himself from boxing
Yeah,
in general.
he did.
You know, and I think that's part of why the move to Italy happened. as well.
we should do a movie night where we watch one of the movies that he did. They're bad. They're so bad. They're so bad.
You know,
So
he
good.
actually he would do guest spots in Italy too, as in the commentating.
I
booth
thought
at
so, yeah.
times, You know, because he was up in the north where there were more fights. You know, so he would guest appear at some of those. But yeah, he's interesting guy, interesting life, and great fighter.
Another name from, you could say our era. We're all roughly the same age. I'm the elder here. Sugar Shane Mosley. Great
Good one.
chin.
Good one.
Even faded.
dude, I mean, we're
late.
talking
He took
about
on
the
some shots.
high level chins. I mean, these are all they deserve a name recognition, but Forrest hurt him bad. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
So Forrest
Yep.
hurt
Vernon
bad.
Forrest so good. Yeah.
Yeah, hurt him. You know, like
To the chin,
that
hit to the
doesn't
head
mean
and the
chin-
body.
That doesn't mean he didn't have a chin. But you know, again, if you name some of the top, we're trying to get to the nitty gritty of the best chins.
So the guys who were hit and didn't react.
Yeah,
Is
basically,
your- the guy-
there's enough of those.
the
There's
true
enough of
granites.
those that exist, unfortunately, that maybe some of these guys don't make the list because, dude, there were guys like I don't know, like Merciless Ray Mercer, dude.
Mercer.
Ray Mercer's
you hit him
fantastic.
with a boulder, you
Yeah.
move. You know,
Chavez.
Chavez,
George
great
Chuvalo. You know,
George Chuvalo, I think, is probably number one. I mean, as many fights as he had, the heavyweights that he fought, he's also a really small heavyweight. He was 210.
Not a big dude.
210.
Yep.
You know, again, that wasn't the era of the super heavyweights, but those guys could punch,
Yeah.
and he got hit. And you know, he was another one. He wasn't a slickster.
and that's why Fulmer is iffy too, because as awesome as the shit he has, he got smoked by Robbins.
Yeah,
smoked
going
him.
backwards.
And which is totally like crazy because you look at it's the antithesis.
Antithesis.
Antithesis. Doing great.
Antithesis. Thanks, guys. And this is why my guy.
He has a good chin too. He has a good chin too.
Antithesis of all
we're
his
talking
other
about.
fights.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
all the other fights. He's like,
he's
like a
indestructible.
Mercer or Chuvalo.
Yeah.
But then there's that one fight where he gets hit and he's just gone.
But
That
that's
punch is so
also why
sweet,
Sugar
though.
Sugar Ray.
That punch
Yeah.
was sweet.
Yeah.
Backwards left
Oh.
hook. Whap.
Yeah.
Beautiful
How do you get
stuff.
so much weight on it?
Yeah, that ankle punch, man. That's that shot.
That's why he's the guy. But let's
got
talk
it.
about it. Let's talk
Still
about
had
Ray.
it. Speaking of still got it, you know, they thought Fulmer was going to overtake him. At
Oh,
that
well,
point, you know?
I mean-
matter of fact, Fulmer beat him more times in his career than
I think Fulmer beat Sugar more than anybody.
Yeah,
I think it's 2-1-1. I think it's 2-1-1.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, but when you look at, for example, on this list, do you think Vitaly Klitschko deserves a mention? Do we? Chuvalo, Ray Mercer, Ali, George Foreman is on this list. I forgot about the back half of his career, meaning
Yes.
87
Can't
on.
be on this list. though.
Never
He's
got
just
dropped.
Special mention. He's one of these special mention guys for me because
Foreman?
because Jimmy Young had him down.
Yeah, true. He went
Jimmy
down.
Young Lyle had him down
Yeah.
75 times in that fight.
Yeah.
They each went down 1,000 times. You know, like,
But he won.
He won. Yeah, bro, he won. That's what I'm saying. Like recovery
But
powers.
dude, but then the second half of his career, Michael Moore could
had a
punch.
better- he had a
and
better-
he
he had a
better
better chin
chin.
in the second half of the
Absolutely,
career.
better chin when he was
Which is
back.
crazy.
Holyfield hurt him.
Moore hurt him.
Didn't drop
Alex
him.
Stewart hurt him.
Yep,
You
none of
know?
them
Didn't
drop
drop
him.
him.
Alex
Wasn't
Stewart hurt
dropped
him
in the
bad,
black half
No,
of his career.
wasn't. But you know what? If
Tommy
he-
Morrison?
The way he's a little bit rotund. If he was dropped, maybe he wouldn't have got up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, very true.
Well, he didn't even sit. He didn't sit in the corner.
sit between
He didn't
rounds.
sit in the corner. Tommy Morrison could really punch too, by the way, and he beat the hell out of him. And George never went.
So what I'm curious about, Chris, should we put heavyweights kind of in their own? You always say heavyweights don't have good chins.
Yeah.
Anybody can go down. So to
But a
be a
heavyweight with a
Chuvalo,
chin, yeah.
should we put them kind of almost on their own separate level?
Yeah, that's why I mentioned Chuvalo, being a small heavyweight fighting that way. Ray Mercer was a great pull. Iron chin, super respectable championship level power, physically strong, durable as hell.
Yeah.
Olympic gold medalist.
Olympic medalist. He was an Army guy, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah.
Was he an Army,
Yeah,
Army,
military guy, yeah.
boxer,
Army,
military amateur?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I do agree. I think that we should hold the heavyweights higher because I mean, there's only so good your chin can be. There's almost no end to the potential of a puncher.
I just
of
thought
how
of-
someone can punch.
I just thought of one. Artur Beterbiev.
Better be.
He's been down. He's been down a
Has
few
he been
times.
down?
He's been down a few times. Yeah.
You're right. You're right. Yeah.
Yep.
But is
You know what?
You know-
It just came to me, so
You know who I got?
didn't give it enough thought.
Oh, please,
Nobody
please.
mentioned it. Triple G.
Yeah.
Triple G,
Golovkin.
phenomenal.
God,
chin.
he could
Yeah.
take a punch.
He fought Canelo 3 times, obviously. Danny Jacobs, who could really punch. He was an awkward, tough puncher. I mean, tons of really, really dangerous guys. Never wobbled, never dropped, never took a knee, never down, nothing, never stopped.
Yeah.
Triple G, one of the best iron chins of our modern era.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
You're right.
But when you look at the guys you were coming up with, Paulie, back when, not just even when you were fighting, but also, when you were a fan, did you like the punchers? Because one of the things about me is like when I first started fighting and they said, what can you do? I said, I can take a punch. And I remember a trainer looked at me and he goes, you don't want to be known for taking a punch, right? You want to be the guy they don't know if you can take a punch. Yeah. Mayweather's on this list. Mayweather's been hit clean 5 or 6 times his whole freaking career. Yeah. So, but did you like the guys who could take a shot, who could walk through punches?
I think they become more fan favorites because they tend to pull and magnetize fanfare.
The Arturo Gatti effect.
Yeah, the Arturo Gatti effect.
Being vulnerable, people love that.
Arturo went down a lot enough to not be on this list, but I think Floyd's chin, obviously, you gotta have a pretty good chin to be a world-class fighter because at one point or another, no matter how slick you are, you're going to get tested. So, there's great world-class fighters, what we say didn't have great chins, but they always had to have a good enough chin to get to world-class level because you don't come and get in the shower without getting wet. You know what I mean? So you're going to get hit at certain points. I remember for world-class fighters, talk about the best jaws, what are the worst jaws? For one of the worst chins I saw in a world-class level fighter was Terry Norris. I mean,
Terry Norris.
Terry, you would touch him and he was gone. But
Tommy Hearns, if he could take a punch the way he gave one, he'd be number one.
Tommy, I feel like it was like his legs. The connection from his chin to his legs was just
felt
not
like
there.
Norris
It's very
was
easy
worse
to
than
take
Tommy's.
that. Well, Terry would just go out. Like he would just,
I don't know. Whoever
Julian Jackson.
Whoever made that fight, Terry's kryptonite and Terry's explosive offense. Whoever made that fight should be shot for Terry's team. Who would accept that? Because by that point, Terry's chin already.
Yeah.
Who decides that they're gonna make that fight against Julian Jackson? And you know what's great about that fight? And great or not great, depends. Terry has a great first round.
Yeah.
Because he's Terry Norris. He's unbelievable. Yeah. And then Julian, I think it was second round, he just hit him, boom, and the fight's over.
I'm curious about, and maybe we're being, of course, I'm being a little, this is an emotional topic, right? Because a lot of our favorites, we talk about chin. The guy over your shoulder right now, Juan Manuel Marquez, once again, dropped 3 times against Pacquiao, got up
he
and
went
got
down a lot.
Yeah. Right.
Early in fights.
Times,
but always came back and either won or gave you an amazing fight. Yeah. Do we give credit to the guys who got dropped a lot and went, I'm not going anywhere?
I think it's a different thing when you talk about resilience and recovery and recuperative abilities because that's something that really it's different. Some guys never recover from shots.
And part of, I tell you, part of recuperative abilities is also your ability to stay with a winning mentality. Because sometimes guys get up and just survive.
Well, that's your heart too.
Yeah.
Conditioning plays a big role in it, being in good shape, which Juan always was. But he went down against Juan Diaz. He went down against Mike Caxides. He went down against. Did Chris John drop him too early?
John, that was the one where it was before app TVs.
I know, nobody saw it.
He went over the other side of the world and nobody saw the fight.
Indonesia. And
by the way, all those guys.
Today we would get that fight at 5 a.m. Back then, it was just you go to the gym in the afternoon
and you find out that
what was the result of the fight? And somebody knew somebody in Indonesia and they had the call. But I'll tell you. Speaking of recuperative powers, because now we're you get my mind thinking a little bit. Felix Trinidad, who used to go down constantly,
went down a lot.
But then it was like the worst thing you could ever do.
Yes,
it was like
it pissed him off.
Trinidad was like a let sleeping dogs lie. Like just box him and don't piss him off.
But as soon as he knocked him on his ass, did until Bernard was smart, and then he's like, I got you.
Round 12.
Now I'm getting you. When he whittled them down. But yeah, I mean, the Fernando Vargas fight is the best description of that. I mean, he gets dropped in the middle, and then just from then on, that fight was over then. Yeah, because Vargas was coming back.
In other fights, I mean, he got dropped against Yuri Boy Campos. He got dropped against early in his title reigns. He would get dropped. I know, good puncher. I'm saying good puncher, but he still recovered.
He was one of those guys. His recuperative power came from his endurance because he ran marathons between fights. Always in fantastic shape. Finish fights really strong. Late power. That's another thing. Bringing up the guys with late power. It's not a lot of guys that have late power get knockouts late. Sergio Martinez, I know someone you really like. Late power. Trinidad late power. That's a hard thing to do, to carry your punch as a fight goes on.
Another guy, a slickster on this list that I love from my era, once again, James Toney went from middleweight to heavyweight.
James Toney.
And had a chin all the way up, dude.
He fought so many punchers, too. Jeez. He fought, Roy put him down, but it was almost more of a balance shot because of,
they were both he was crafty, but he also was in the pocket so much that he got hit clean.
Yeah. You talk about that Buddy McGirt style of like, you're here, but you can't be it.
Matter of fact, Buddy used to love, James was one of the fighters Buddy used to bring up a lot.
How could you not?
He pocket, old school pocket head movement type of fighters. They are difficult to hit, but also they get hit more because they're in that prime location of a contact. So as slick as James was, he had to have a good chin because his mainstay in the ring was in that prime location of the pocket constantly. You know, guys who change range, which was what I like to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes you give yourself a break. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to be where it all is. I trust my reflexes, but I don't want to have to trust them every second of the fight. Well, guys like James wanted to trust their reflexes because they also wanted to make you pay. So the closer they were, they could make you pay for missing. But at times you get hit.
That's such a good point that people don't even understand. Because I was actually talking to the production guys last week, and I was saying, I was like, my first 20 fights, I barely got hit because I was so tall. So I just fought long. I never had to be in the pocket. No fight ever needed to be there for a guy if you're tall, if you know to use your range. The first 20 fights, I barely got hit. Like I just stayed outside. So people didn't know if I was tough or had a chin until I actually had to show it.
I have the same thing.
Yeah, but that's part of it. Where you decide to fight really matters in how much contact there is and how much damage you're going to take and how good your chin is.
It was all hair and eyebrows for me until 21 fights, and then I fought quarter and I got cut right away. I was all hair and eyebrows till then. So that was what they knew me for.
Before we go, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up an opponent of the guy to my left, Ruslan Provodnikov, on the list. What was it like being in the ring with a guy where you're like, dude, he was never off his feet his entire professional career. What's it like being in there with a guy you're like, dude, it's like hitting the side of a building. What is it like fighting a guy with this kind of
Oh, no, literally every part of his body was like a piece of iron. No, like hitting him.
And he also liked to get hit.
Yeah, oh no, he got clipped.
He would give you the.
So you know what's funny? Like, listen, I wasn't a puncher, and obviously, he had an iron chin. I was still trying to knock him out. Like our plan was to hurt him to the body.
And you hit him to the body a bunch.
And I hurt him to the body. I did. I definitely did. Because you saw a bunch of times where his elbow dropped. But then our plan was just going into the fight. Box him, make him miss, because when a puncher misses, their gas tank diminishes very, very quickly. Touch him in the body to make it diminish even that much quicker. And then we knew he was going to throw the left hook and trade left hooks with him, so he'd knock himself out. I wanted him to run into the shot, which I stupidly did in the first round.
Yeah,
I did in the first round. I was like, he was so easy to hit. So I was like, let me do it now. But yeah, no, his entire body, everything on him was like a piece of iron. So hitting him all night long,
so it's
super compact and very underrated hand speed. Very, very quick hands once he got to position. His problem was he was a tank. It took forever for him to get there. His feet were the problem.
His hands were fast.
His hands are fast.
His feet were a little bit weird, but his hands were quick.
The first time
he was in range, he threw them hard and fast.
I watched him as he was coming up through the ESPN. I was like, I loved him. I loved watching him fight. He was so much fun. You asked, if you like punchers. Yeah, I like those guys. I liked watching a Ruslan. I don't want to fight like that. I don't ever want to be in those kind of fights. But I used to watch a guy like Ruslan. I was like, ooh, man, this guy's fun. Whenever he's going to fight, I'm going to watch. And then I remember signing for the fight, and I was like, all right, I got to actually watch this guy to study now. First time I watched a video of him, I was just like, I was scared. I'm like, this guy's hands are actually really fast. I'm like, if he gets in the position, you don't want to be in the pocket like you're saying with him. Because if you're trading with him, you're getting hurt. Ask Tim Bradley. You can't be in the pocket with that guy. Like, you have to fight at range. And it's funny, Lucas Matisse fought him after I did. And Lucas won in a fight of the year the following year. And they asked Lucas, he goes, I just watched Algieri fight. Just got to stay long. Just stay away from him. Yeah. You see, you can't trade with him because he's going to hurt you. He's going to rearrange you.
And usually Russians are so technically sound, but he was just a lunatic.
Which is why people loved him. Yeah. He's a really popular guy.
Yeah. That's the way you become popular, right? A lot of it can be having a great chin. Make what you will of it. Our list of guys with the best jaws in boxing history, the 50th anniversary of the movie. Check it out. Get terrified all over again. We're here at Boxing Scene Today. As always, as it makes boxing news, you'll see it right here. Find out why millions are watching.